right. Good morning, everybody. Afternoon, evening, wherever you are. What's going on, Steve? User 16386288469. Deepak, Yamari. Hope you're all doing well. Crypto relapse. Are you relapsing from being a crypto junkie? Yes. Nice. Well, I think we all are. Constant state of relapse on this market, I suppose. How's everyone today? Happy Monday. What a good great way to start the week. My boy Alex Costa just pointed out that it's the first trading day of the year, I guess. I feel like that might be incorrect, but either way, maybe just the main first of like the new week, new trading week maybe of the year. But either way, stock market just appears to kind of fired some things up. Taking a look at Bitcoin, ETH, altcoins, hanging out, whatever we want to do today. So for me, I still anticipate we're going to get some more upside on Bitcoin. I just put in the Discord this morning a bunch of updates pointing out that we had a once again bullish divergence in the order flow, which is a software that it's a little bit more sophisticated than just like an RSI divergence. Pretty much shows that the majority of retail traders, I guess, are trying to short or putting in more shorts than longs at these levels, which in theory, I guess trying to come in and buy 90 all-time highs is probably not the greatest idea. Granted, short term, I think we still see more upside. Probably take that all-time high, if not a little bit more. So we'll see how we go. Everything I get out, it pulls me back in. UAE fishing, how you doing? Paul, I like the name. I like the name. Good morning, Yamari. All right, so got 15, 20 people in. It's probably going to be a little bit of repeating myself as more people come in here. So, but I'll kind of kick it off a little bit here. Bitcoin, we start off looking at things, every new day and every new week with a little bit new data points, right? And as we started off this week, we have a nice little couple of things to kind of pay attention for. Granted, like I said, my higher thinking is that we probably make a run back towards the all-time high, and then we'll see if we get a setup for a decent actual pullback around those levels, right? So, but for now, we've got a couple of key points here to be aware of. All right, so we started off today essentially just kind of cruising up our last week's high. Make sure you guys can see that okay. We put in a high for last week right here at about 99,000 basically. It's pretty much where we have to close the CME futures as well. But we started off with a little break, a little retest of that as support, and then we're getting a little rocket to the upside, right? So we had a little volume target up here. We actually have a few more. I took them off, but really, at this point, like as long as we're holding above this previous week high, honestly, I anticipate we'll probably run to the all-time high, and if not more, up to like 110 and a couple other areas up there. We do have a trend-based gold pocket sitting up here at like 117, so it'll be interesting to see if we make it all the way up to there or not. But either way, the all-time highs, not too far away at this point too, which is nice, 7%. All right, simple little outlook on Bitcoin. I know that most probably don't care about Bitcoin, right? We want to take a look at our altcoins. We want to know, where 90% of everybody's got their money in, if that's going to move, or if we're just going to sit sideways while Bitcoin pumps and then everything dumps with it, right? But yeah, really nice little move here. I will pull up we had like I said, this is pretty much a nothing burger now. There's a few more of those. Let's see where they were. Pull them up to get a little. There we go. All right, so next one's at 104. We got 106, 108, and then we'll see if we get. I've been calling it the T-bone shark. Right, so this is kind of the underlying pattern at hand, in my opinion, for now. Right, would be kind of push up into these regions here, take the all-time high. Can't marry it, it's just something I'm, preparing for if we get it, which would be something along the lines, really would have to look for something like this and then lose that all-time high again, right? So Might not happen today. It'll be something that, maybe even takes a whole week to go, and maybe it doesn't happen at all, right? Maybe we just, flip the high and we continue up and tag out that, that 117 and move on from there. But for now, that's kind of been the idea. I'm actually in a pretty decent long right off of the low, as you know. And the reason I did that, right, is last week we had a similar situation, as we always do, where we come down and we took the previous week low, right? This was our weekly low down here. We started off Monday, boom, stopped everybody out. Once again, everybody's trading. And when I say trading, there's a lot of people that aren't just actively trading crypto. They have mid to long term holds as well as I do too. I don't have just everything, YOLOing around at short-term 10 and 15% moves. I have larger bags as well, but just daily I'll look for the opportunities, and more so the swing trades right now. The short-term moves are just like day trades themselves have just not really been worth the time recently. It's been more so looking for these key, bigger plays, right? So this was a really nice move right here. Come down, swept the low. That's where I took my long, and I'm looking to run it up, probably at least to the 104 mark. If not, trying to take it up to that shark target, but we'll see how it goes. I got a long on Ethereum as well from the monthly pivot, which is that high time frame average of price from last month even, right? So both these are just swing positions at the moment. I also have a long on XRP, and those are just the three like active trades, something that has a little bit of leverage behind it and something that I'm willing to cut if things kind of change. Otherwise, everything is just spot holds, buy and holds and things of that nature. But yeah, getting a nice little move up here. King Elizabeth. What's going on? Bull Runner 76. Hello, how are you? I do want to point out, got a couple of new weekly levels though to be aware of, right? So even though we're getting this move up to the upside now, at any point if we start to kind of lose some steam here, there is certain areas to be aware of, and even a quick jaunt to back down to like 96 wouldn't be out of the question, and that would just be a return to the average of price for last week, right? So we see that time and time again as well. At the moment, I don't anticipate we'll see that right now. Like I said, more so I think we're going to push up and probably clear these highs out. And if not, make some substantial maybe new highs. But otherwise, I'm looking for more of the move along the lines of this, where we come up, take the high, see if we lose it, and that'll be a trigger for. I'm not really saying to come in and short here or anything like that. Granted, this would be trying potential for a short at the all-time high, which is you don't want to be looking to long there. Traditionally, while sometimes we still may see more price action continue up, I know people would combat that with stating the 20K breakout. Back in 2020, the 20K was the previous all-time high, and we, I guess if you would have 100x longed the all-time high, you would have done pretty well, right? Run it up to like 60,000. I don't think that the same scenario is going to apply here. Plus, we've already broke the all-time high, and I guess that would have applied at 70K from 70 to 100. So currently, we just have a new high to just be aware of, and yeah, just kind of playing it as we go here. So like I said, for the time being, I do anticipate more upside. I think we're setting up for a pretty decent pullback though, so I do want to put that out there. I don't necessarily know that we'll just see straight up only. I think that's where everybody, and I put out a video today kind of covering that idea that it's very known that the 4-year cycle, I think, is really something that everyone is just glued to, and I don't think that there's a true version of the 4-year cycle aside from you get a halving every 4 years, you get a bear market for a year, and then you get a top every 2017, 2021, and then potentially 2025, right? So it's kind of where everybody's really hanging their hats on, and for me, I haven't really subscribed to this year, and I used to be a 4-year guy, trust and believe. So if it happens, it happens, and I'm here for it. And like I said, I'm able to adjust and go as things kind of change and we get new data as it presents itself. But for me, I'm more so as far as like a higher time frame outlook. I really do think that crypto is putting in its first 20-year cycle alongside the housing market, right? And that's kind of been like my underlying thesis, especially ever since COVID. where, and you know, there's just many reasons behind that. Another piece of my analogy to that was that, you know, Trump ended up coming out of office in 2020 was like a guarantee. Coming back in 2024 was a guarantee. Like it was all things that kind of all aligned for housing market, the everything bubble, crypto as a whole, everything to basically just kind of top out, you know, in the next 4 or 5 years here, right? So like 2020, really 2026 could be the time frame it starts through like 2029. With ups and downs along the way, right? Like we've seen even just, you know, when I bring up things like the crypto bull run as a whole, right? Everybody looks at the current price action and gets really afraid when you see like 15% pullbacks and stuff like that. But, you know, by and large, we've had a huge run up, and you would say that, you know, the bull run started here, but we've had so many, you know, major pullbacks along the way. So even though if I'm looking at the market to kind of continue up for, you know, a couple more years here potentially, you know, pullbacks are going to happen too, right? So it's just, I think that the idea that everyone's married to right now with the 4-year cycle, and then that Trump's coming back into office, and then you got 2 weeks before the markets just go absolutely bananas, and it's a guarantee, and it's up only. Like I just think that that's a recipe that's setting up to get a lot of people hurt short term. That's all. That's more so than anything. It's a short term kind of play. Very similar to what we saw last year, right? ETFs all got approved. You know, you're punching up. You're at all-time highs. The amount of people piling in, you know, assuming that, especially in the altcoins, like, you know, people piled in thinking that we'd have this huge altcoin breakout. You know, Bitcoin, we were going to see exactly what we saw back in 2020, and we did not, right? We got a really huge consolidation to the side, and altcoins got absolutely obliterated in this time frame, right? You're talking 50 to 90% down overall. So just something to kind of be aware of, just kind of keeping it level-headed, I guess. So don't want to be the like a bearer of like any kind of bad news in a sense, and I'm not married to this idea either that we have to see a pullback, you know, these next few weeks and months here. But I just think that we're the recipe is here to kind of get some people short term licked again, right? So because everybody's piling in once again now at the highs, and it's just kind of always going to be the case. So we'll see how it goes. All right, what's going on, Crusader? Crusader, the market is pumping. What are you doing? You think we'll see Bitcoin dominance drop at the 108 range if we get a pullback? Let's take a look at the dominance here in a second. Super cycle, baby. 400 or 500K Bitcoin. Ooh, got my squiggles all jacked. All right, so dominance. Do we think that Bitcoin dominance will get a? Let me read that again. Do we think that Bitcoin dominance will drop at the 108 range if we get a pullback? It depends. Honestly, I think that we're gonna probably take a run at this high again, depending, right? So I mean, you know, looking at this, you can see it as, you know, you got your little high, low, lower high. You know, potentially we're still kind of just plugging around right here. So you would look at this as maybe we're putting in a little downtrend, which is what you want to see on the altcoin market, right? We want to see Bitcoin dominance come down. That means the altcoins end up tending to go up. But we've got some big key levels here on Bitcoin that, you know, we just came down. We hit a high time frame average for the year. And this one to me is interesting because we front ran 2 really big levels. It's one level, but it's 2 really big pieces. And it's right here at 62%. So we front ran it up here. So that just kind of like leads me into thinking that we actually come back for it, which would not be great right here, right? That's like a 9% push up if we get it. Not a guarantee by any means. We also have this little level right here at 66%. Doesn't necessarily have to happen, but I think if we push up and Bitcoin gets rejected at 108 area, it's just going to depend. Honestly, I feel like it could be one of those times where we get like a little pullback in Bitcoin and we get a pump in dominance, right? So that would probably not be ideal, but just going to have to see how everything kind of lines up and shakes out. But right now, holding support, you know, probably going to push back up at least towards these areas here, and then 60% to 62 is kind of still that big area for dominance. What's my target for ETH if Bitcoin goes back to the all-time high? So I've been patiently waiting for Ethereum to go to $4,400. So that's still kind of remains my. Let's kind of clean this up a little bit. All right, what do we got here? this off for now. And I'll leave all this. So here on ETH, right, we had the pretty big little drawdown. When was that? Week before Christmas. Reclaimed up of these areas here. This was the last month we had an average of price that I was looking at, that 3,200 region. So this is actually where I got the long at. Looking to run it up. 3,800 is, probably the next main little point here, and this is just a point of control for the current range that we're sitting in. So for the month of December right here, which is a pretty relevant range, the following month, right? So for each week, we have the previous week range. Each day, you have the previous day. Like, these are all, areas and, ranges that we can kind of work on or work off of essentially on the next session. So whatever that time frame you're looking at. So for this one, this is a monthly range on ETH. Generally, we come back. You got an inefficiency right here, being that this is the highest area of volume on the chart, and we've re-entered that range. So the natural target becomes at $3,800. And then we got the range high essentially up here, basically back to 4,000. For me, I am looking to see if we kind of flip that, and 4,400 is my area I'd be looking to for ETH if Bitcoin kind of pushes up to like 108 or maybe even makes a new all-time high. It's a little higher than where, well, actually, I was going to say it's a little bit it's kind of hard sometimes when Bitcoin is pushing up these days to kind of gauge Ethereum, because a lot of times in the past it's not hard, I guess. It's technicals regardless. So right now it's 3,800, it's 4,000, and it's 4,400. Those are the next key regions. So I guess I'll see where ETH is if we do push back up for Bitcoin, right? You just kind of have to take it as it comes. But back in the day, we would see like almost similar, percentage gains or loss with Bitcoin and ETH. If Bitcoin pushed up 20%, you could kind of, assume that ETH was going to have a similar, type of move. ETH has just been so much more tighter, contracted or whatever you want to call it, but underperforming, whatever the case is, right? So you'll see like a 20% move out of Bitcoin and you get like 12 out of ETH. And I want to cover the Bitcoin and ETH chart here in a second, kind of looking at that altcoin rally, the next one at least, right? Because for me, I think that we go through multiple altcoin seasons and altcoin rallies. I think we've seen, a couple of them already. We saw a huge one in 2023, quarter 4. We saw a huge one in quarter 1 of last year. Really, that could almost be the same one, from essentially November of 2023 or October 2023 to March of last year. So like 6 months. That was really truly an altcoin rally. I mean, or an altcoin season. You had things like Solana run back from a couple 100%. I mean, we had several altcoins kind of make huge moves, right? It's not everything, and I know that that's where everybody gets hung up at, is that this market is so big now that it's got like sectors, like the stock market, right? In the stock market, you have the Magnificent Seven that are outperforming hundreds of other stocks. We're kind of in that same, like almost a similar realm here. It feels like for crypto, where you have like whatever the flavor of the week is getting like all the juice, and then everything else just kind of like stalls out. But don't worry, they tend to get the pullbacks with everything, right? Random tangent there, sorry. Smashing those likes, Crusader. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, so Bitcoin heading up, a couple key levels here, looking nice. The ETH versus BTC chart has been, and full disclosure, even myself, right, I anticipated, and this is what the thing is, I'm trying not to get too predicty, anymore, as far as like putting time frames on things specifically. And this was one that when we were trading back up here, this is the ETH versus BTC chart, by the way, I was looking for a potential reversal around December, right? And I think that at the end of the day, everybody ended up kind of coming to that conclusion as well, right? Which is, once again, that like hive mindset, that echo chamber type of deal where, when everybody's expecting one thing and it just doesn't happen that necessarily that way most times. Sometimes it does, but this has still just been the chart for me for the true blue, when I say like stupid altcoin season where and maybe it doesn't, maybe this is just the time frame when we hit this region, and if we get a reversal, it's just going to be the next altcoin season, right? So where we maybe see like 6 months of upside and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a potential, and that's the thing, is I just put a little confluence with this harmonic pattern. I don't know if you can see it here, but I haven't moved this chart for like what feels like a year and a half at this point. thought that this little front run right here, right, we came down to like 3.032, I guess, back in November, and then we did get a decent little push up, but ever since then we've kind of stalled out. So I still feel that this may be the route that we're gonna go here. So a couple more weeks and months, maybe even, right? So that's why, like, when I kind of look around and I see things kind of pointing to, even though Bitcoin's coming up to that new, maybe a new all-time high, altcoins necessarily aren't. I still think that we have a setup or a recipe where, we get an all-time high to Bitcoin and then we get a pretty sizable correction, like something that people couldn't even fathom right now, right? And I'm not saying, like, try not to get too predicty with that too, right? Because it's just, once again, I'm not married to it, and I'm not like overly like, oh man, the markets have to do this because they're going to do what they're going to do. But for me, I'm always just trying to position myself, especially with some of the bigger moves in the market. Like last year, it was a really tough move, at times, but I positioned myself pretty well on both of the major moves of the year, right? So for one of them being that I sold 75% of everything up at $70,000 Bitcoin and $4,000 ETH, and the main reason behind that was actually Ethereum, not even really Bitcoin. But had identified that we were going to have potential for a big move down, right? And like I said, the Ethereum chart was the real reason I did it. But then we had this shark up here, right? So we put in this bearish reversal pattern up here at the highs, and everybody's really excited. And we were thinking that hey, it's breakout, it's going to continue up. And then what did we get? We just got huge pullback after pullback. And everybody was really hoping for those reversals, and it just kind of felt like it was never going to come for a minute. Started breaking down, got to the $48,000 area. So once again, sold everything up here, and actually managed to buy everything back at $52,000 Bitcoin. And when I say that, I'm talking about like when I re-entered my altcoin positions was at the time when Bitcoin was at that level, right? So, and the reason again was because of Ethereum more than anything. But so yeah, the two moves for the year were something that I managed pretty well last year. Not like tooting my own horn by any means. I've made many mistakes along the way. Maybe I miss the next one, right? So, but these are the type of things that I try to look for and position myself for. And once again, you do whatever you want to do. I'm just putting out some data, putting out some ideas, and you are welcome to interpret that however you'd like. And then once again, like I said, maybe it doesn't play out like that. But for me right now, my next major play here is going to come into effect when we come back into this high. So I'll just kind of see how things kind of play out here. But that's a nice looking that's a nice looking green one, right? All right. XRP, I'm surprised nobody's really asked about it quite yet, but we'll take a look at that really quickly. I put up a video, like a quick video update on this the other day, where we got this potential butterfly. I really don't love this pattern, but it's more so something that, once again, I'm not married to this at the moment, because this is not something I can work off of right now, but I try to identify these ahead of time so that when we come into some big areas, if we start to reject off of it, most people are going to look at this like this, right? And I'm just painting a picture. You got pretty much the high right here. So if XRP starts coming up and we push through, people are going to pile in once we break that high, right? You got your all-time high just above that. But if we come up to 320-ish and start to get a pullback, most are still not going to necessarily be trading that like a top area. Most would be looking at that as a breakout, right? And people pile in at these highs. So for me, I try to identify some of these ahead of time in case they start to play out. Because this would be a bearish pattern, right? So this is something that, once again, can't really work off of until it's complete. It's kind of like if you were looking at a head and shoulders pattern as example, and then you were trading off of that before the final shoulder completed. Like, it doesn't really work like that, right? You have to. This is the target area, the completion zone that I'd be looking for the reaction. So if we get the push up to this region and you like start getting a little pullback from here, this would set off this bearish pattern. So on the way up is bullish to complete it. So that's one thing, which is nice. But yeah, it's just pretty much been stalling out around here. We do have a nice little daily level of resistance just above. But for me, I'm looking to see if we get that push up, once and for all to the $3 area, 318. But I do anticipate XRP coming down, either first or overall, right? So we got some really big key levels down below us. And that would also, line up with Bitcoin having to have a pullback as well, stuff like that. I don't imagine that XRP would just see, a pullback on its own of this magnitude. You're talking like 20 and 30 and 40% pullbacks, which, mind you, from this one right here, you've already seen, 35% pullbacks. Like, so it's not that it's impossible. But yeah, for me, I do anticipate we'll see up more first, right? So towards the all-time high. But I do, if I'm playing this in the sense of like, all right, if I'm looking for this asset specifically, if I don't have any XRP, it's like I would look to, if I'm looking to scale back into it, what am I going to wait for? Well, I don't do anything unless it's a red day. So, and I look for big red days, like 20%, 30%, maybe 40%. You might not get it, and that's the thing. I can't tell you that XRP is going to these levels or whatever, but I'm prepared for them. My alerts are set, right? You see them on each and every one of these levels. But that's the areas I would look for, the better entry point or a better opportunity. If I had to have XRP, I probably won't be looking to buy too much of this, but at these levels. But like I said, like it's something that where if you're willing to buy it when it's pumping up at 290 and this and that, like you should be willing to buy it, or more prefer to do it at 180 with a 25% discount, 147, whatever the case may be. I also bring up. What I love about bringing up and talking about technical analysis is that, once again, most people are not actively, yeeting their entire portfolio, right? Nobody's logging in every single week or every single month or quarter and like, in preparation for a possible 30% pullback at times. Like I know most people aren't just going to move around their entire portfolio, but I think that it's important to understand that the reasons why the market may ebb and flow, so that when you do see, we wake up in a few weeks to potentially, $47 XRP, right? $12 XRP. There's no sheer panic. It's just these are key regions. They're, like I said, high time frame averages. They're inefficiencies. It's just the market tends to come back and fill these inefficiencies, right? So, and yeah, so just kind of try to minimize the panic. Avalanche. Yeah, we can take a look at Avalanche. Target on ETH. We just went over that. Do I feel it'll drop back down to 93,000 for Bitcoin? I would imagine at this point, if we start heading back down, high level, if I'm water gun in my head, I do think we see a pullback, sizable at some point in the next, and once again, this could be weeks and months from now. So sometime this quarter even, right? Or maybe even within the next 6 months. Do we head a higher first is kind of the question. And then I think that is the route we're going to take. And once again, like I said, like I've been pretty long on Bitcoin several times around these regions. I actually shorted almost the exact all-time high, but I cut it pretty early. I cut it like 99. But got back in on a long right here off this sweep, targeting back to the highs again. And then we're going to, just play it by ear there. But honestly, I think that 87 and 86 is a big region that is very likely this quarter. So I'll just put it that way. Like it's not a guarantee. I'm not saying for 1,000%, it's all we can do is build a case and an edge in the market, and then position ourselves accordingly, and then be willing and able to adjust to when you realize you're wrong, right? So that's kind of the key point to that. But I would say that that this region right here, 87, 86, very likely. So at some point in the next few weeks, if not lower, right? So for me, more so than anything, I still am targeting, like I said, targeting higher, maybe like 110, 115. We've got the trend-based gold pocket up here, 117, 118. We just kind of have to see how things go up here, right? But I am more so in the camp that we probably do something along these lines in the next few weeks. Somebody asked about Avalanche, so we'll take a look at that. So we had this, pretty big range breakout, and nice little back test, right? Essentially came back all the way to the point of control, which was pretty sizable. I can't tell if you can see that. There it is. Uh, Point of control, like to the dollar, which is always a fun thing to see. Bounce back out. Let me highlight this right. So, boom, point of control, broke back out of the range, back test the range here, higher low over here, and we ran it up to a major target, $54 at the time. This was a quarterly level here, and then got a pullback with probably pretty much everything. Overall, barring some pullbacks along the way, depends on how everything kind of shakes out. But overall, I still target 75 to back to like 100 on Avalanche. So the question just kind of will be if we get another pullback, which probably, like I said, like all things considered, if it's all about like Bitcoin and how the market, if we get a pullback there or not. But I would say that once again, if you're already in your positions, we're holding, we're waiting. You look for a pullback to the downside, which like a simple gold pocket is generally something that you look to, which is down here at $30, which at the time that's not a great drop if we see it, but that's kind of in line with something along the lines of that Bitcoin move, right? Where maybe we see 108, 109, and then back to 87, right? So that's kind of where I'd start stacking some bids. If I'm looking to buy, more Avalanche, or just once again, just being aware that Avalanche can come all the way back down to drop 30%. I guess, yeah, all the way back down to $30. And that would just be a natural move down, right? So we've come up, we've tagged a really big level here. We've come down, we front ran that gold pocket. So that's, doesn't have to come down to it, but it usually we come back down, right? Because now what do you have is that we have so many people that once again are buying in. And when you do have a good amount of people trading with some leverage in the market, right? So where is their stop loss? It's going to be right below here. Anybody that's been moving stop losses up is going to be right below there. So a lot of times we'll come back down. You fill in the gold pocket, you stop everybody out, and you move on, right? So that would be the area I would look for, back down to maybe like $30 area. But overall, anticipating or targeting over time, 76, 98, that's what I'd be looking for. Just wanted to take a look at Doge here, right? So Doge has got a couple of key levels stacked up just below the recent lows too. So once again, doesn't have to happen by any means, but if I'm approaching the market fresh today and I'm like, man, I want to get a position in Doge or whatever the case is, I'm going to come in, I'm going to look for some areas where maybe I don't get them, but these are the areas where I'd build a probability that this is a better area to enter. And it's down here around these 30-cent levels once again, right? So that would be a sizable pullback if we see it. You're talking 20 and 30%. So once again, kind of in line with even Avalanche's pullback if you see it. But so far Doge did a similar kind of move here. You got the push up. We came up and you had a high right here for the month of November. You came up right here, swept that high. So once again, stopping out anybody that's kind of coming into the market going short, which it's as many people as you think aren't trading with ridiculous amounts of leverage at that. Any moment in this market, there's hundreds of millions of people, market buying, just hoping that they're going to get big, get it big. They end up losing a trade, and then they revenge trade right after, and then they gotta up their leverage because now they've already lost this amount, so now they gotta win it all back. Generally, in one trade, they go for it, and they're always afraid to miss out, right? So they're not waiting patiently for key regions; they're just jumping in as soon as the move starts to look like it's unfolding. Anybody that was trying to short, Doge in these levels, it's probably coming in right here, right? Because you're getting this push up, and then you get the move back down, and people are like, okay, cool, I'm gonna short here, stop loss above. Wank, right? Stopped everybody out, and it's getting really muddy. So pull back again, everybody re-enters their positions, right? Or new people come in trying to short because this, in theory, this would have been a good little move here, right? Because it's just like we saw here, you came up and you swept the high, stop everybody out, come back and close back below. Realistically, that's a good short. Stop loss back above the high, right? Well, then you get it again. And this is one thing that I tend to look for is more so on the time base, right? So now you have a previous month high, and we came up, stopped it out, right? So I know it looks very close, and you wouldn't think anybody has a stop loss just this far away from maybe they entered, but most people are not entering here. They're entering right here, so that's pretty wide. And if they're not stop loss, it's enough to where you do come back up and you break these, the last high or the last low, and it scares everybody into thinking it's just going to keep going. And then they'll get out and then they'll come back in and all this, right? But anyways, that would have been the setup for sure. You had a nice little, hit here, pull back right to the gold pocket, and then we've just kind of bounced and, kind of continued up from here. Now you do have a little bit of a lower high scenario here, right? So we could be putting in a bit of a downtrend, right? So something to kind of be aware of here. Once again, in line with maybe a Bitcoin pullback in the near future. But yeah, otherwise, Doge, short term pushing up. We've got gold pocket to the downside's already been hit. I got this one right here that's derived from that high to that low, right? So if you pulled that, you got a gold pocket right here, back at like 40 cents, which is basically where we're trading. There's a quarterly, there's a volume target sitting up here. This is the area that we were targeting in the group, right? So from this little region here. Probably not the best time to enter, even though we could see more upside. That's just the risk, right? The risk management has to come into play. For me, if I got to get in a Doge, and if I'm looking for that fresh entry, or if I just want to know like, all right, where can this pull back to and why, it's probably going to be back to here, right? So we got a bunch of high time frame levels stacked up here, some big supports stacked up here as well. So yeah, that 28 to 30 cents, I would imagine we do see it again. Maybe we push up a little bit first and then come back down to it. Solana, yeah, this was set up, given in the group a couple days back. Yeah, just looking to rotate this range pretty much. Solana was one that I ended up actually taking a pretty decent short from this high. When was that? In November. And I closed it out pretty much at 180, right? And not saying that just to be like, oh, look at me, somehow got the exact high and the exact low, but there was a really nice harmonic pattern here that I put in the group, and as well as just, once again, when I'm talking about some of these other ones that I'm looking at on Bitcoin, or maybe that one on XRP, it was something that I was trying to identify ahead of time so that if we started to reject, I wasn't afraid to kind of pull the trigger, right? So, and then I'll just showcase what that was really quickly. It was this one right here. So you had this deep crab going up to the all-time high, and as soon, and I'm identifying that when we're trading probably back down here, you sweep the high here, you close back below, right away that's automatically usually a pretty good short entry anyways, or just, close a position maybe along, whatever, or like if you just even spot buy, you maybe sell some off and look to buy back lower. It was a 30% pullback. And it was right to a couple targets here. So I took it the target I took it out at was at 180, and then we got the bounce back so far. So that's kind of done and gone. And now just moving on to the next one here. So for me, I'm just looking for a range rotation, which is like I put on there just a bit ago, right? So pretty much just this range where we had held the low, probably running it up back to the high here, back to 238. But ultimately, I do imagine we come back down to the range low again, and then even probably 142. squiggles. The squiggles are real on these ones. All right. So see how ETH kind of plays out here. Nothing really changing here in the short term, right? So these are just the next major areas here. Doesn't really change any kind of a structure. You can still easily kind of get a reversal from there and head lower. But like I said, for me, I'm going to see if I can take this up, ideally to 4,400. I think that would be a pretty nice little move here on ETH, but can't overlook 3,800. 4,000 once again, pretty much range high. We got these little wicks. And from where we are, that's about, this is like a 10, 12% move. And the reason I bring that up is, once again, at least back in the day, if I was, trying to correlate a little bit of where I was anticipating Bitcoin or ETH to go, a lot of times it was, correlating on where the next key region was for Bitcoin. So for me, I'm looking at Bitcoin to probably take this high a little bit, maybe 110-ish, 112, 8% move on Bitcoin here, maybe 6 and 7. So if we saw a similar, just ETH getting dragged up type of move, not ETH like getting a real decent pump, that probably puts it at the high of this range, right? Probably that 3,800, maybe back to the 4,000. So I would be looking for that 4,400 if we really got some gas behind it. All right, this is all the time I got this morning. I might pop back on a little bit this afternoon, or maybe just put together a couple of quickies for TikTok videos. But if anybody's interested in joining the Discord, there's a link in my bio there. Otherwise, I'll see you all in the next video. Hope you all have a great day. Happy Monday. Happy trading. And until the next time, everybody, I'll see you. Cheers.